We're joined by the co-founder of social news site Reddit, Alexis Ohanian. Alexis, welcome back to InBusiness. So a 19-year-old possibly took down the CIA website and Sony. What are you hearing? You think they got the right guy?
I hear he was also involved in the Kennedy assassination. Here's the thing.
You sound quite skeptical.
Here's the thing. So Anonymous, the whole purpose of Anonymous is that anyone can really be in Anonymous. It has no central organization. We like to think of these things as all being very top-down because that's the sort of model we've worked in. But really anyone can walk up and do something under that banner. And so perhaps he's involved with some of this, perhaps he isn't. It's actually really hard to say because anyone can claim to be a part of Anonymous, but that they don't necessarily speak for or act for all of Anonymous. It's just sort of a banner everyone flies under anonymously.
Well, and the idea is that perhaps Anonymous morphed into LulzSec, or maybe there's a crossover of some of these members. I mean, we can run through all of the hacks that they're accused of carrying out, and there's been a tremendous financial cost, certainly to Sony. I mean, you've seen a number of attacks on PayPal, Visa, MasterCard carried out by Anonymous. LulzSec, which you see, like they literally have a little icon and a Twitter almost press release for what they're doing or not doing. You can see the attack on Sony, the CIA, News Corp, the U.S. Senate, PBS, where they had that story posted there about Tupac Shakur possibly living in New Zealand. Obviously, they've got a sense of humor, but what is the point?
That's just it. There is no point. It's a random. This is what happens when you have a disparate group of people just sort of randomly acting under one banner. So there's no agenda, there's no manifesto. It just happens to be whatever someone who wants to do something under the banner of Anonymous says it is.
So what are the FBI and Scotland Yard what are they supposed to be doing here to discourage it?
Ideally, they ought to be looking for the individuals who are behind this sort of thing. It's not as though that individual was carrying something out under a directive of the head of Anonymous. But really, the onus here is on, and where people should be concerned, is on the corporations that are in theory protecting our data. In many cases, these hacks were really just exploits of really, really pathetic security. In the instance of the Citi break-in a little while back, that was pretty much the equivalent of going up to a bank teller saying, I think my account number is 123456. Can you have my info? Can you give me my info? And then doing that a million times without anyone getting suspicious. Like these are
until you get the right number and are able to get in.
Precisely. And so the real world equation is kind of something like having a bank or something protecting something valuable and just kind of leaving the door unlocked. And that's what most of these companies unfortunately have in the way of online security. And there's plenty that we can do as individuals to protect ourselves. But really, when we're trusting these corporations, they really need to step up their game.
And so in some ways, the defense is, well, maybe LulzSec, maybe Anonymous is helping us out by highlighting these vulnerabilities. But how do you get, I mean, a Sony, some of the other corporations didn't even know that these weaknesses were there.
Yeah. Well, that's frankly some part apathy, some part ignorance. I mean, I assume the best case scenario out of all this has been that lots of companies that offer security services can now be hired by these aforementioned companies, because really this is a lot of very basic rudimentary stuff that people just didn't care about enough to take care of.
Oh, well, and it starts to raise questions about, well, we keep talking about cloud computing and going into almost shared storage space. It would seem to complicate that.
Yes, you ought to be very, very deliberate with who you choose to host all that information in the cloud, because you would hope that they would be taking those that security very, very seriously. And we saw even a company like Google, who we consider to be very on the ball, very, very smart engineers, have dealt with things like Chinese hackers trying to break in and getting access to some data. So it's just a matter of the world we live in, and it doesn't mean that this needs more regulation. I think everyone on both sides of the political spectrum can agree that less government intervention in regulating the internet is the solution. We don't want to see more of it.